Hello, so this is going to be a video all about body armour, and what I want to try and do in this video is explain how the sort of surplus police body armours work for anybody who's interested in buying them. Because now and again people ask questions about these where it's not really clear until you actually physically look at one how they work. Now there's different kinds of body armours, we'll go over that to start with. You get stab-proof vests, which are obviously, as the name implies, designed to stop knives. You have ballistic vests, which are designed to stop bullets. And then you have what I'd call combination vests, but I don't know if that's their real name, and that's what this is and most modern police body armours are. So a combination vest is where you try and add both stab protection and bullet protection to a regular vest. And how that works is you have a panel of Kevlar, and if you don't know what Kevlar is, it's incredibly strong, sort of a fibrous weave material. And the idea is that Kevlar stops bullets. The reason it stops bullets is because it's got so many layers woven together that when a bullet tries to crush its way through Kevlar, it flattens out on the Kevlar itself before it makes it all the way through. Obviously you need thicker and thicker Kevlar for sort of higher ballistic threats, so level 2 Kevlar or level 2A Kevlar, which most police vests are because they're the sort of comfortable lightweight ones, would stop pistol rounds really at most. There'd be level 1 Kevlar, but I don't think anybody uses that anymore because it's so obsolete. Level 3 Kevlar is what stops against the majority of pistol rounds and some rifle rounds, but again that's much bulkier and heavier. I think in theory there might even be level 4 Kevlar, which is again a step up. Now the issue with Kevlar is of course that because it's a soft panel body armour, Kevlar is actually flexible, which makes it really great for wearing like this and being comfortable to wear. This vest I'm wearing has both a front and back Kevlar plating, and those Kevlar plates with the vest carrier probably only weighs about 1 kilo or something, so it's very comfortable to wear this. It's sort of supported out my shoulders and my waist, this vest. So Kevlar's lightweight and it gives good protection. The issue is it doesn't protect you from shock very well. So if a projectile came and hit me really hard, say a bullet, if the Kevlar stops the bullet, the force of it hitting me may still kill me from, the shock to the organs or whatever else. So that's where you have plate carriers. Modern military vests are normally a combination of Kevlar panels and ceramic plates or steel plates, and the idea of those are that when the bullet hits it, the plate absorbs a lot of the shock and the Kevlar stops the bullet, or a combination of the two. So what these vests normally do, the combination vests, is they've got the Kevlar layer obviously, and I've just explained that, but they normally have what's basically chainmail, and the chainmail is protected against knives. Kevlar is very good against stopping bullets. It's good against stopping knives, but not brilliant, in the sense that if you had a Kevlar panel and you shoved a knife into it, the Kevlar would certainly slow the blade down, but you need quite a thick bit of Kevlar to fully stop a blade. Whereas there are other, harder things that are better at stopping blades. And chainmail, as good as it was back in the Middle Ages, is still now used in a modern sense in these vests. So what I want to try and show you is what a vest looks like with chainmail. And I've got one that I use for ballistic tests and stabbing tests, so I know what my vest will protect me against. You can buy the Kevlar panels on eBay themselves, normally for like £20 or £30 for these vests. So for pricing wise, you can normally buy these surplus police vests from anywhere between £30 and £40 upwards, depending on what type of vest you want. I've got one of the older types. These are withdrawn from service because the issue with these vests were that they didn't really cover your belly. So I've got around that in a very easy way. I bought one for a size of somebody a bit taller than me. That way it goes down low enough that it covers most of my belly. And it's actually a perfect shoulder fit as well, because I'm quite broad shouldered for not being all that tall. So by going for one that's about, for somebody approaching 6 foot when I'm about 5'8", it actually fits me shoulder wise, and it's low enough that somebody can't cut my guts open with the vest. So what I want to try and do is show you what the police vests look like with the panel inside, then I'll get you the open panel and I can quickly do some stab tests and show you how it works. Okay, so I've got the vest on here. The rear panel is still against my back, but here's the front bit of the vest. Now there's a zip here, so if I undo the zip, we can look into the vest, and what we've got here is a waterproof bag for the Kevlar, and you've got the label here. If I can get it, what I'll do is I'll just take the vest off so I can get that into the camera's angle closer. I can actually take the panel out of the vest if it's not too difficult. Sometimes these can be a bit of a pain to get back in, that's why I don't always like taking them out. But okay, here we go. Right, here's the Kevlar panel. Now this is made up of two things. You've got this is the side that faces the body, as far as I'm aware. Normally, yeah, wear this side towards body. Here you go, there's where it says it's a level 2 vest, so it will stop 9mm full metal jacket at 398 meters per second, at 1,305 feet per second, blah blah blah. 357 Magnum, you know, and all lesser threats. So it's saying that's the best it can do. Anything else, it will stop. Obviously, higher performance rounds, if they're shot from further away, it could stop as well. But the idea is that they say this is what it can stop at this range. Anything that's, you know, less energy at further range, it will stop as well. And it says, in addition to the stated ballistic specification stated above, this panel will provide protection against edged and pointed weapon threats to HOSDB level KR1 or 25 joules minimum energy. So basically what this is saying is that as well as giving you ballistic protection, that's the Kevlar bit, this gives you physical protection. And you won't be able to see it through the liner, and I don't want to cut the liner open, but if I feel that, I can feel that there's, you know, something on here that's not Kevlar, and this will be the chainmail type stuff. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this back in my vest, and then I'm going to get you one of these panels that's totally open and visible, so you can actually see what the panel would look like underneath this protective layer. Okay, so if you opened one of those plastic packets up, you'd see something like this. You've got your actual Kevlar layer that's behind the chainmail, and you've got the chainmail here. And as you can see, there's lots of air rifle pellets that have been shot into the chainmail, holes in the chainmail where I've tried testing it against various things. And if you look at the back, you can see where I've successfully got through a couple of times. Now, what I will say is, with the actual stab vests, lots of those offer what they'd call, I think it's something like puncture protection or pick protection or something like that. I think it's spike threat they call it. And what that is basically the issue with a chainmail vest is it will stop most blades. And as far as I'm concerned, generally if you're going to be stabbed while wearing one of these vests, somebody's probably going to come up with you a normal knife. That will protect you fairly well from this with the chainmail in front of the Kevlar. What it doesn't protect you against is something like an ice pick, because the ice pick is small enough that it will go through between the chainmail rivets and it will have no issue going through the Kevlar. Kevlar in general is more vulnerable to a spike threat because how the penetration goes through the panel than simply, you know, a big sharp blade, in all honesty. So obviously chainmails like that, if you're not familiar with medieval mail, it is literally the exact same thing, just made of modern machinery and very, very good. So yeah, the mail protects from slashing and stabs because a blade needs a lot of force to get in between the coils and break them. And the idea is obviously that when you've got one of these vests on, the force of the blade trying to get through the mail and then trying to penetrate the Kevlar will mean you get enough protection that the blade won't go through, and if it does go through, it should only make a shallow wound into the person wearing the vest rather than actually going all the way through. So that's how it works. Now what I'm going to do is get a chopping board out and just stab a couple of knives into this to demonstrate how well it works. Now obviously where I'm going to do this, I might put some newspaper behind it, but for the most part I'm just physically showing you how well the vest works, because when I've done these tests before, people have gone, you need to test it on something soft for it to be a valid point. I'm simply testing the vest. I'm not testing what it would be like if you were wearing it and you got stabbed. I'm simply testing, you know, how well will the vest resist an edged weapon going into it, you know, at point blank range on a hard surface. If you're on a hard surface, it's actually easier for the blade to penetrate because the vest can't move away from the blade as it comes down. When it's got flex, if it was against a soft object like a person, it's actually harder for a blade to penetrate because as the blade goes down, the vest moves out the way of the blade. So generally when we've done stabbing tests with these panels, we found if you put them on a hard object and stab through, you're more likely to get through than if you have it on like something like soft foam and stab through. Now, obviously I was saying it depends on the speed of the impact coming through and the head. Tumbo very kindly a while ago sent me these crossbow bolts he made. I tested one of those against Kevlar. It went through really easily, even from my 40-pound recurve crossbow. But to give you an idea, that was like an actual spike threat. It was like a chisel or a nail file he'd sharpened to be, you know, like a needle point, like a bodkin arrow. So if you had a bodkin, yeah, sure, you don't need as much energy to get through. However, when I tried it with even my 175-pound compound crossbow that shoots at something like 360 feet per second, a big heavy bolt from that, going really fast with a regular arrow tip on it, could not get through. The bolt actually bent horribly on the Kevlar. So what that sort of teaches you is that these vests give you very, very good protection unless somebody has a very specific tool to get through them. Now, in theory, you could further reinforce one of these, I guess, by getting a chopping board or something like that. Mike, Weapon Collector, has done a really good video on improvised stab protective gear. You could put like a chopping board, if you've got a thin one, that fits in front of the panel in the vest, and then you've got even more protection because you'd have the sort of chopping board to give you quite a bit of protection, because they're obviously designed not to, so you can't accidentally cut through them when you're chopping vegetables or whatever in the front of them. You can have your chopping board, then you can have your chainmail, then you can have your Kevlar panel, and I don't think anything's really getting through that's not a firearm. So there you go. So let's stop talking about this and let's get the stuff out and do a test on the vest itself. Right, hopefully you can see the testing area. I'm going to put the chopping board on the floor. That's where I use to test my knives to see if they go into it. So just to demonstrate, that Mora knife didn't actually drop into the chopping board, but the idea is that this is the board I use to test knives sometimes. So I'm going to have this chopping board. Then I'm just going to put a load of newspapers underneath to make it maybe a little bit softer and more accurate if that's what people want. Then the Kevlar's going on with the chainmail here. So is that fully in frame? That looks like it's fully in frame. Right, I'm only going to test a couple of knives on this because I don't want to damage any of my knives, to be quite honest, and I know this thing's really hard to get through. I'm going to aim for somewhere that's actually, you know, got the chainmail covering it as should be. Then I'll flip it around and just demonstrate what a knife does to Kevlar without the chainmail in the way. So let's do this. Alright, that's going to have done absolutely nothing. Yeah, absolutely nothing. Got stuck in the chainmail. Let's try again. Again, nothing. Again, that's not having any luck getting through at all. The chainmail blocks the blade with like only a centimetre or two going through, and then the blade can't get any further. So let's flip this round. And then this is what happens. Now, see, that's gone through the Kevlar a bit, but I don't think it's even gone through the entire way. No, it hadn't. So, what this hopefully demonstrates is that the Kevlar itself is actually fairly good at stopping blades, but the chainmail in front is the main thing. The chainmail stops the blade actually getting very far in at all, and then obviously the blade can't do much. Right, just to demonstrate more of a needlepoint blade, I'm going to get my Fairbairn Sykes out, and then I'm going to stab it with that a couple of times, because that sometimes can get through with a good enough thrust. If not, it will at least demonstrate to you what the Kevlar's weak against. Right, time to do this with the FS knife. So hopefully you can see that this is an actual proper sort of dagger, very, very renowned for its piercing point. So let's try it with this. Again, that's already gone further in. Has it managed to penetrate the other side of the vest? Not quite. Okay, let's try again. I think the very tip has gone through on this, but that's about it. If I demonstrate it this way round, you'll still see how the chainmail does a really good job of stopping it. So again, the blade can't get very far because the chainmail has blocked it from getting far. So hopefully this does demonstrate to you just how good these are. Just to try it from the newspapers. Again, that's actually pierced through. Not by very far, but it has gone through. Now, to show you what would happen if you just put this into a wooden board, yeah, it's just going to stick in like that. So, hopefully this demonstrates to you just how good this Kevlar stuff actually is if you're buying it on the cheap as surplus. So yeah, this Kevlar stuff is really good, these police vests. As said, I think this one only cost me somewhere between £30 and £40. I actually did EDC this at one point when I went to work and I was in a bit of a dodgy area. Once you get threatened for money a few times, you think it's probably a good investment to get one of these vests. Great thing about these as well is because they're not too bulky, you can actually wear them under the coat and you actually just look a bit fat rather than you know, like you're actually wearing a vest if you're worried about people noticing you wearing a vest. As said, some of the models the police have are better than others. Generally the actual Kevlar panels are pretty much the same thing in every vest, it's just some of the carriers are better. I've noticed when I've actually looked at policemen walking around, the vests they wear now seem to sit a lot tighter to the body. I think they're elasticated in more areas, that's probably more comfortable to wear, might be a bit more of a breathable material, I don't know. But these vests are absolutely fine for what they are. And as said, you can buy the replacement Kevlar panels. Kevlar's one of those funny things, a bit like with respirators or gas masks, where they have kind of like a factory shelf life that they last far, far longer than, but the police have to get rid of them after a certain amount of time. So you can buy Kevlar that's in perfect condition, will work absolutely flawlessly, but the manufacturers have like a date on it that they're not meant to use it longer than, just in case something goes wrong with the vest. And apparently that's one of those things, you know, to keep selling more Kevlar, they've kind of got one of those rules where it apparently expires, you know, when it doesn't. So anyway, that's what one of your panels would look like if it was brand new and I hadn't, you know, completely mushed this one up by hitting it with so many different things and everything. It would be that way in, so the chainmail side always faces out because that's the side that's designed to stop a blade coming in. I mean, this is going to be a really stupid thing to do, but there you go. That's what the Kevlar is designed to do. Works absolutely flawlessly, as said, and as I was saying, this is going to stop the vast majority of knife threats I think you're going to encounter in the United Kingdom, at least. People with either kitchen knives, I noticed Mora's not a kitchen knife but close enough. I said most chavvy sort of gang things are going to be carrying kitchen knives or whatever, maybe machetes. This would stop a machete fine, obviously your neck and head wouldn't, or your arms wouldn't, but blade slashing this is even less effective than... So a blade slashing is even less effective than trying to stab through it. But yeah, Kevlar is very good for what it is. It does have its limitations. As I said, if you're buying body armour, make sure you can check the labels and know exactly what kind of protection level it is. You want the combined vests, in my opinion, that offer both ballistic protection and stab protection. As I was saying, the actual stab vests are even better because I think they have like a really thin sheet of polycarbonate or something at the front of whatever kind of material they use. The idea being that that gives you spike protection because, as I was saying, enough force on an actual sort of screwdriver type point and you can get through one of these, but it requires, you know, a very good wind up hit at just the right angle to get through. And as saying, I don't think most criminals that might attack you if you're wearing one of these vests would actually be, you know, having specialised armour piercing kits. And if you're fighting back, you know, it's going to really prevent somebody getting good hits into your vital organs. So hopefully that answers some questions about these vests. They will absorb a bit of shock as well, but don't rely on that. As saying, if you actually had one of those thin chopping boards, like the plastic type chopping boards, you put that in front, I actually think that would offer you even better protection if somebody took a really good hit at your chest or something like that. Because that's gonna like work like an actual plate carrier and absorb some of the shock, probably hurt the other person's hand more than it hurts you. Also, if you're wondering about flak jackets, it depends on the generation of flak jacket. The flak jacket I have is an old Northern Ireland one, and that's made of something called ballistic nylon. Ballistic nylon was used before Kevlar was discovered. It's basically the same idea, but ballistic nylon has to be even thicker to offer the same level of protection from Kevlar. At one point there were these things called barrier vests, which were pre-Kevlar, actually bulletproof vests made from thick pieces of ballistic nylon with a couple of like metal plates sewn onto them in places, and they could protect you from lots of pistol rounds and things like that. But if you have a modern flak jacket, they normally are made from Kevlar, so it would be a very similar thing to one of these. Normally flak jackets give you a bit of neck protection as well in case shrapnel gets you in the neck. But yeah, for the most part, if you're interested in getting body armour, the easy and cheapest way to do it is generally just to buy the good, like grade A second-hand police vests with the Kevlar panels still in them. Because if you're buying second-hand Kevlar panels in good condition, they're normally like £20 to £30 each. Times that by 2 for front and back protection, that's already £40 to £60. So if you can get the carrier with the 2 plates in for £30 to £40, that's a bargain in my opinion. Like I said, something like this could save your life, and they're very easy to actually find online. You can find them in all sorts of sizes. Normally these are bought by private security firms once the police get rid of them. So like bouncers and security guards and things like that actually have a bulletproof and stab-proof vest. And I should stress that they're not actually bulletproof and stab-proof. I think resistant is the word you want to use. Bullet resistant, stab resistant. They can always be penetrated, but the higher level of protection the vest offers, the harder and harder it gets to get through. And obviously most crime is opportunistic crime, which means a criminal goes for an easy target. If you've got one of these vests on, you're definitely not an easy target if it comes to somebody trying to actually stab through it or something like that. Right, hopefully that's answered questions on these vests. As I said, it's basically one of these inside, combined chainmail and Kevlar vest to give both stab protection and ballistic protection.